You're listening to Branding Personal, the podcast for marketers who want to build their personal brand, grow their network, and get ahead in their careers.
We're your hosts, Ebony Coatsworth, that's me.
And Rosie Chong, that's me. And hi, producer Jess.
Hi, guys.
I love that so much.
We are officially in our first solo episode.
We
as
are.
We just said. We released the first episode last week, and how is everyone feeling about it? I'm really excited.
The response has been amazing. I've literally seen people posting on Instagram stories, LinkedIn about us. People I don't even know. Like, obviously our cohort of friends and our network and our colleagues are posting, which is awesome. Love them. But seeing strangers who are not in my network post about it, I'm like, whoa, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's really exciting. We were talking yesterday in the office, Jess and I, about Jess's mum.
I'm going to need some context
here.
here.
She loved the episode.
Hi, Mum. She is a huge fan of you guys already after the first episode, and she is taking your advice and following Instagram accounts that inspire her.
Yay!
What is your mum's name?
Melissa.
We
Hey,
love Melissa.
Yeah, love you, Melissa. And thank
Shout
you
out,
so
Melissa.
much for all the support we've been getting. It's really exciting. If you follow us on socials, if you don't, links are in the show notes. But
What are you doing if you're not following us
Yeah,
already?
exactly.
We've got a goal to hit.
well, and that's what I wanted to talk about, is the goal that we want to hit. So our boss said that she would pay for us to be on a billboard,
Get us on a billboard,
the Branding Personal team on a billboard,
please.
if we hit the certain targets. So I'll link the exact video where you can go and see what we have to hit. But basically we have to have 20,000 followers
20,000 followers,
across socials.
40 on the charts.
Yeah, in the charts. And
How many downloads? Was it 10,000 downloads?
it was 20,000 downloads.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So
We're on our way.
and 10,000 subscribers. So please make sure that you're following, that you're downloading, and that you're doing
Subscribing.
all of the things, because we would love to be on a billboard.
Get us on a billboard. Although I was looking at our TikTok comments because we're very big in responding to TikTok comments. So if you aren't already commenting on our TikTok, what are you doing? Someone commented on that video saying, why don't you just buy yourself a billboard? Not the point.
Yeah.
Not the point to buy ourselves a
I saw
billboard.
that comment yesterday too.
No, we're not. We're here to meet a goal and become the next best podcast in Australia, in the world. Why not stop there? Today, we're going to be sharing 3 tips on how you can elevate your personal brand. I'm very excited to get into them. But first,
You're doing
amazing, sweetie.
Okay, I'm so excited. Second time doing this segment.
Yay. I love this segment. This had a really good, what's the word I'm looking for? Response. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys loved the first episode where we shared Rach from TBH and Caitlin Emiko. And today we're coming back with some more personal branding queens. So I'm going to get started, and I'm kind of breaking the rules just a little bit, but I want to talk about Jaz Hand Made, which is technically a business.
Okay.
But it's run by Jaz Hand. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because you can never underestimate the power of being able to leverage a personal brand to then move on to an aligned business. So Jaz was an influencer, so I guess that's sort of different.
Is that where she started?
Yeah.
I don't know her journey. So for me, I'm taking notes.
Yeah. So she was an influencer, and then she went on to, like a lot of influencers do, start her business. However, it's been incredibly successful, has had longevity as well.
Yeah.
And why I love her approach to personal branding is because she is so dedicated. A lot of, think about Brittany Saunders, right? Like, she was posting consistently on YouTube. I know she started that up again.
Yeah.
But when she started Fate, she did take a step back from her personal brand.
She was kind of doing one, then the other, not simultaneously.
And makes sense, right? Because she's got a huge business.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that Jaz has been able to upkeep her YouTube vlogs, her Instagram.
She does YouTube vlogs?
Yep. Her
Wow.
TikTok content. And she also just started a YouTube channel for Jaz Hand Made, for the behind the scenes of The Office.
Interesting.
So I found that was really interesting. We've got some questions later on talking about how does UGC and EGC play into a personal brand, a wider personal brand. I think that Jaz does a great job of it because her staff are becoming, people of interest within the brand, and they are subliminally selling the jewellery because people are just addicted to watching their content.
Interesting. And it's such a good example of buying into an entire ethos of a brand or even the person, and then secondary, becoming a fan of the brand. I think that's what Alex Earle does really well too. She started as an influencer and then has built out her own brands. And that's when I think an influencer, when they become an entrepreneur, it works so well because an audience has already bought into that person, but they maintain being the face of the brand. And I think Jaz does that because I see Jaz from a TikTok perspective, but I've never bought from her brand. I didn't know she had a YouTube. And I think having that connection and that association, I think as a founder and as an influencer, I think is a really unique way to build such a memorable personal brand that can transcend different areas, basically, in different content pillars.
And last week we talked with Caitlin Emico about niche interest, but something else that's really interesting is, I don't know what you would call them, I guess like signature associations, like something that you associate with a person. So with Jaz, she's obsessed with matcha. Like she's always making her own matcha, and she has a bunch of them. I think probably the matcha is like the strongest thing. And, you know, I feel like I have that with gluten-free. Like even strangers, they'll be like, message me and be like, hey, oh my God, I ate at this gluten-free place. And I think little things like that, or if somebody also has a long commute, they like resonate with me and they're like, oh
it's
my
the
God.
signposting of your personal brand. And it is essentially, when I talk about people, what actually is personal branding as a definition, it is what you are known for. It is your reputation.
Exactly.
And that's what that is.
And sometimes you can play it up.
Yeah.
And I think when we talk about the answers today to the questions that
I'm
came
really
through,
excited.
That's something I want to talk about as well.
Yeah.
Subtle foreshadowing. Okay, who was you're doing amazing, sweetie?
I had two, but I think because last week I did a TikToker, I'm going to stick with a LinkedIn person. So really keeping in the traditional personal branding space. And it's actually one of my friends, Chanel Clark. I say friends, we met on the internet, much like you and I did.
Yeah.
We met online. And Chanel has just absolutely blossomed in the last 12 months. I first met her when she was posting on LinkedIn as a marketing thought leader, and she did a really good job of being very authentic. She shows a lot of the behind the scenes as a founder now. Spoiler alert, she's now a founder. She left her traditional job about 18 months ago and is now the founder of a club called the Marketing Club, which started in New Zealand and is now in Australia. I think she just celebrated 10,000 members. She is also a freelancer as well. And her journey on LinkedIn, the growth has been really consistent. And I think her growth is a testament to how consistent she is. Even when she's having a bad week, she's still posting.
Yeah.
And I think that is just something so strong to learn from, that if you feel like you have nothing to post about, you still have something to post about. And I think she is such a good role model to be looking at for how you can be posting about multiple different things, but also still be the face of a brand, but still have your professional side as well. She's just got a very great, relatable tone of voice in her content that doesn't feel the same as those unattainable, unreachable CMOs, CEOs that you just think, oh, their life is perfect. I'll never be like them. She's just so raw and real. And I think that's why it resonates so well.
Yeah, I really like her too. I actually interviewed her around a year ago.
Stunning.
On a segment of my other podcast. And I think she's really relatable. I also think something she's done really well with TMC is building that community.
Yes.
And I think with
advocates for her, much like Jaz and her employees. She's got her people who are part of the community. I'm part of the community. And just as a part of that, I'm promoting her brand and not even being paid for it because I love it and I love the community aspect of it.
Yeah, and it's gotten so big. It's sort of similar to my networking events. Like sometimes the community gets bigger than you, and I'll have people at the events who are coming to an event that I'm hosting as part of like my personal brand. Yeah. And they don't know who I am, and I actually love that. I'm like, I love that my community has become bigger than I have because there's people being like, oh, how did you find out about this event? And I'm like, me. I hosted it. No, I love that so much.
Yeah, community is everything, and she's built a really strong one and is definitely a must follow in my books. And I'm not just saying that because I love her, but she is great and she's consistent, and I think you can really emulate and be inspired by a lot of what she does, especially if you're on your freelance side hustle founder journey. Even if you're not sure with what you're doing with your career, she's really great to be inspired by. Okay, so you and I are absolutely personal branding nerds, so it's time we actually start spilling some of our tea. I gotta stop saying tea. Spill some of our insights so you guys can learn. And we're gonna start with we're not going to start with. In today's episode, we're prioritizing 3 ways you can actually elevate your personal brand. So these are going to be really actionable tips that you can take away with you today and start doing. And it doesn't have to be just on LinkedIn. I think it's a really good reminder that your personal brand can transcend online, and it can be in real life as well. So you don't have to feel like you need to start a podcast or create a LinkedIn post or become a YouTube vlogger. I know that can be really scary for people. So these are going to be tips that you can take away in real life. But you and I obviously are big LinkedIn people.
And I just want to quickly, before you say, I just want everyone to just hold space for what Rosie's about to share, because it is such an honor. No, it really is. It's an honor to co-host with you, because your expertise around personal branding is unmatched. I think you are so strong at it.
Thanks.
And it's such an honor to be able to co-host this with you. So if you're listening, make sure you come back to a time with this section of the episode. We can timestamp it in the show notes to really soak this in, write it down. It's also, spoiler alert, going to be the challenge for this week. So that'll be in the Facebook group. So if you haven't joined already, please join. And that's an easy way for you to stay on top of all of the challenges that we have going. But I'm just really excited. This is like a peek inside of Rosie's brain. Okay, so I just want you to hold space for that.
I'm also going rogue. I'm not even going to use the notes I wrote down. And
oh my
I'm
God,
gonna,
I'm so
I know,
excited.
because I thought of better ones. So the first tip is going to be speak like you're talking to one person. And there's a creator on LinkedIn called Jaz Hand Made, I think, and he's got like 300,000 followers. And he calls this the Dear Son method, because he has a son, so he writes like he's speaking to his son. Before I heard him articulate it as that, I had always written my content thinking, okay, if I'm sitting down with my best friend or my work friend at coffee, or even with my partner, I need to speak like I'm familiar and I know them, and it feels warm and friendly and authentic. And when you start speaking like you're talking to one person, it brings so much more clarity to your content. And this is where I say it can be online and offline, because you can be in a presentation, even if there's a room full of 100 people you don't know, if you still speak with the intention of, okay, I'm speaking to an audience of one, your message will be a lot clearer. And I think it can make you feel a lot more comfortable. Same thing goes with online. If you're creating content and you have one person in mind, it's going to make your content land and resonate much stronger. Instead of trying to appeal to everybody, you need to appeal to the right people. And something that evolves from that, from a content perspective, is when you're speaking to one, it means that your post might become 5 posts and you're not getting mixed messages in your post. And whatever you're trying to say in that specific video, post, Instagram story is going to land much better. So that's my first tip.
That is so good. It's something that I've started doing accidentally, because I know exactly who I'm talking to on TikTok.
Yeah.
And so often I will start the video by saying, hey, marketing girly. And that we can talk about how some people find that controversial and the whole saying girly and whatever. But I genuinely think that people feel seen. I am happy to be called a
They're
marketing
instantly hooked in.
that this is for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I popped in one of mine as well. But if you put in more notes, I'm happy for you to put yours in.
Well, we've said 3, so we're going to stick with 3. We have a lot of content we can share, so I'm not going to spoil everything yet.
We've got a whole podcast, so
stay tuned.
Yeah. Okay, so something that I wanted to talk about was treating yourself as your own client. It's switching your mindset and creating content for your brand, your personal brand, as if you were an actual brand. And I think the reason that this is so important is because I speak to a lot of girls who are trying to grow their personal brand, and they say to me, how do you have the time? I don't have time. I'm always posting for other clients. And to them, I say, this is a bit of tough love. But if you know me, you know that I'm a kind of tough love person. Just because you work in social media does not mean you don't have time to post on your own social media.
Ooh.
Because that is your 9 to 5. If you are so busy creating content for your clients and working for your clients, then you need to talk to your manager. You're working too many hours. There are people who work at Woolworths. They have a 9 to 5. They work at Woolworths and they have a personal brand, because they are able to separate it. It is a lot of work to build a personal brand. It can sometimes feel like another job, but you need to be able to prioritize it. And just because you work in social media and are posting for other people does not mean you can't do it for yourself. It actually means you have an advantage over other people who don't have that experience.
That is a little controversial.
It's a little reframe. Do you not agree?
No, I agree with it. I just know that there's going to be so many people saying, oh, but you don't have to build a social media presence if you work in social. It shouldn't matter. It's like, at the end of the day, if you want a personal brand, you need to put in the work.
Yeah.
That's it.
And the thing is, you don't have to build a personal brand.
No.
If you don't want to, you don't have to. But if you want to, don't use that you work in social media as an excuse, because it's actually an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I think it's also, and I don't know if you're going to agree with this or not, but I think it's also a scale. And I'm so mindful that not everyone feels comfortable with building a personal brand online. And that's why I started with a personal brand can be in real life as well. I think it's a spectrum from people who are just intentionally dressing a certain way at work. You know, you might always wear the color pink. That's your personal brand without even realizing it. It might be drinking a certain coffee order. I'm now known as the oat chai latte girl. And even if I didn't have a personal brand, that's what I'm known in the office. And that's my personal brand in the office. And so that's the one end of the scale. The other end is obviously kind of what Brittany Saunders does, Jaz Hand Made. They're everywhere. Alex Earl even. And they're very intentionally showing up, making space and making the time for it. So I think it's just reminding yourself of where you fit on the scale and not feeling like you have to be completely all in. But if you want to have a very memorable personal brand online, it is work, but it's worth it if you are wanting to do that.
Absolutely. And you can do it if you want to.
Yes.
But you do not
and
have
for free.
to. Yes, exactly. And I think that the other thing I wrote down was to take a moment, step back and strategize a little bit to work out what you're comfortable putting online.
Yes.
Because if you're just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, then that can be really confusing when you're initially building that personal brand. So I think it's about
clarity
taking a
is
step
key.
back. Yeah. If you had a client who came to you, how would you be getting started with them? You're not just going to say, oh, okay, we'll just go on the fly. We'll just post this. And
do whatever.
We'll see what comes up. Exactly. So start treating yourself like your own client. That was
I love that.
my tip.
That's great. Our third and final tip, again, I'm going off mic here because these are not the notes I wrote down at all, is understanding consistency has different meanings. So I often get told, oh, I can't post that many times a week. How do you do it? I've got no time. And when you remember that consistency is so many different facets, that's when you can start building that personal brand offline and online. So consistency can mean how many times you're posting, but it can also mean the emojis that you use in your messages at work. It can be the way that you style your hair at the office, or a certain way you do your makeup, or a coffee order you like. But consistency can also be how you comment and the tone of voice that you're using. It can be the format that you're uploading in. It can be the platform that you choose if you're embracing a personal brand online. Consistency is not just about frequency of posting. That's just one part. And if you can think of it more holistically, that's when you've got a better grasp. And I think it becomes a little less overwhelming, and you don't put all of your eggs in one basket on just this concept of gotta post. But you need to have a well-rounded, consistent personal brand across the board to then start having those associations, to build that reputation. So I'm very intentional that my headline and the way that I interview on other podcasts or I present when I'm giving a keynote is, oh, I'm the 9-to-5 personal branding girl. It is not my job title first. It is talking directly to who I help. It's what I do. It's given myself a platform. But I'm the same with that in my DMs, in the comments I leave. I've got that same persona coming to life, and that's very intentional.
I could not love that more if I tried. People always confuse frequency and consistency.
They're different things.
They are different.
They can be
things.
related, but
Yes,
they're not the
because
same.
you can be consistent with your frequency, and you should be. But if you're
Yes.
posting once a month, every single month, not very frequent. But
Still
it's
consistent.
And I think people mix that up all the time.
Yes.
So I couldn't love that more. And the other thing you said about being consistent about who you are, and always do not be afraid. Hopefully when you're posting content, you're always landing in front of new people. So that consistency is really
Yes.
important. Some people think that that's going to be boring. In most of my videos, I say the hook of the video, so whatever it is, I had the craziest day today. I can't believe this happened. My name is Ebony. I'm a marketing leader from Melbourne. I share marketing leader content and tips. If that's your vibe, you're in the right place. I say that almost every single video because hopefully you're getting exposed to a bunch of new people. So that consistency is really important. You cannot bank on people just thinking you are who you are. You have to put it in people's faces. You have to be consistent with it. That was amazing. I loved that.
Anyway, so save those for later.
Okay, this one is from Abby.
Hey branding personal team, I would love to get some advice on my account and personal branding. I find it really tricky to balance kind of all of my interests and all the facets of my personality, and I I guess I would love some advice on how to like hone in what your personal brand is.
All right, I am just going to completely handball this to you.
Okay.
Because I know I interviewed you a long time ago.
That's how we met. You asked me to be in a podcast.
Yes.
Anyway, so fun.
Well, I think we had already met before that, but like
true.
properly met.
Yeah.
And I came to your house, and this is the thing that I was fascinated about. And it has been since becoming friends with you. I know it's something that you think about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me. What would you say to Abby? And then also, tell us about your personal experience with this.
I think, speaking from very personal advice, I do a lot of things in my life. I'm active on a lot of channels. I think you have to realize that not everything has to have a space. Not everything needs to be making noise. And I struggle with that at first, in thinking that everything is equal in my content pillars in my life and what I need to be sharing. I then realized that that is just not a strategy. And I think to have a good strategy, you need to be able to cherry pick what areas of your life you want to be able to speak about. And they can be very different. And I think I don't always get this right because my LinkedIn presence is very different to my TikTok presence. But I've realized that some people might say that's bad and you should be reposting the same content on every channel. And I know that that works for some people. If you want to be known as a founder, you can be posting founder content on Instagram and TikTok, and then also a shorter version on LinkedIn. But my personal brand is that I want to be known as Roti Chong. And with that comes, I'm a freelancer, I'm a podcast host, I'm a LinkedIn creator, I'm getting married, for example. And those are very different topics. And I think I started with having to identify and create content pillars first. So I think, Abby, knowing that you have a lot of different interests is a good thing. I think just sit down and actually write those out. And then once you've got those, you can then start actually writing down. If you can write down 20 content ideas for one content pillar, that's a good pillar. If you're struggling, then maybe it can be a part of your life. It could be a hobby. It could be something you love doing. It doesn't mean it has to be documented as content. So what to me that means is I recently reflected on my TikTok content pillars and I was doing too much. I was doing shopping vlogs. I was doing outfit of the days. I was doing what I do at work, what I eat in a day, wedding stuff, travel. It's very confusing, especially when you think of your audience might only be seeing you for the very first time in a piece of content. So you can have multi-interests. I think you just need to bring back what is the overarching piece of string that ties everything together. And a lot of that can be in your tone of voice. It can be the format you create in. So if you've got 5 different hobbies you want to be documenting, that's fine. But maybe your consistency in your personal brand is the style that you're filming. It could be you film it in vlogs with a voiceover. And I think Grace Creative, she's on TikTok. I mean, she's on every channel. She's one of our friends. And I think she does this really well. She talks about a lot of different things, but she has a very consistent format. She'll start with her introduction, face to camera and talk, and then she'll do ASMR. And it doesn't matter if she's traveling, if she's working, if she's playing with her dog. They're very different things, but her consistency and personal brand is her format. So I think you can have different topics basically, but you need to have the ability to edit down and know that not everything is going to have a voice, or not everything needs to be on every platform.
That was such a flawless answer. I love that you brought Grace into that because she is just a masterclass on how to talk about a bunch of different things but have that so cohesive.
Yeah, she does it so well, and I am still learning from her with my TikTok content so strongly.
Yes. I have one thing to offer to Abby on this, and I would say have a serious think about the parts of your life that if you were to tomorrow blow up online, that maybe you wouldn't want to share because you can't ever take back something that you do share. For my mental health, it's not unintentional. It's very intentional for me that I do not really share any of my personal life online.
No, yours is very professional driven and professional focused.
Yes. And while a lot of people will say to make yourself the niche, personally and for my mental health, that's not something that would work for me. I am a very intense person. I'm a very enthusiastic person. I'm all in. So I have to carve out areas of my life that are sacred that will never go online because I don't want to share them because I know that that would take me out of the moment. So that's a consideration for me, something that's important to me. And that's why, a lot of people might not know that I actually do have a partner, that people don't know my hobbies on the weekends because those are my things that are sacred for me.
Yeah.
So that is how I differentiate between what I will share and what I won't share. And I have it's very easy for me to know whether something's going to go on TikTok or whether I should capture something.
Yeah.
Because I have those rules for myself. And it actually makes creating content a lot easier because I'm not trying to capture things and being like, oh, would this work? Or should I post about this? Or I've got to capture everything. It's like,
You've got a strategy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Hopefully that helps, Abby.
Thanks, Abby.
What a great question. We actually had 3 questions come in that all had the same question about how do you delineate between almost personal and professional and different hobbies. And I think they can all coexist. It's just about being very intentional with what is your ideal end outcome, who is your target audience, and how do you get from point A to Z with them.
Yes, and we might be having, we are having somebody on the show who is going to be able to go through that in much more detail.
No spoilers yet.
Yeah, no spoilers.
I'm really excited.
We've been Easter egging.
And if you guys have any burning personal branding questions, slide into our DMs, comment in our Facebook group, DM us on LinkedIn, wherever you want to find us. Give us your questions so we can give you advice. That's what we're here to do. We're here to give you everything as much as we can for free. So take advantage of that.
Take advantage of it.
Do it.
The challenge.
The challenge.
Okay, so we haven't landed on a jingle for this. If you have any input on what that should
That was
be,
not the jingle, and I hate that.
let us know. PJ is incredible, so give us an idea. And
Shout out PJ, producer Jaz.
Together. So the challenge for this week, as I said earlier, are those 3 steps. We will outline them in the show notes, but also jump into the Facebook group because we will have a thread. You guys can ask us questions. We want to know how you're going with the challenge. So those 3 points, that's the challenge for this week, and we cannot wait for you to start trying them.
Very excited. That was a great first solo episode. I'm going to be taking notes, which is weird to be saying, but I'm excited.
Yeah, so good. Thank you so much for those who wrote in your questions and also the feedback. Please record your questions. We find them so much more fun. But if you do want to write in a question, that's absolutely fine. PJ can read them out for you. We do have a backlog of those, so we could probably even do a full Q&A episode in the near future of just the written questions, because I think it's really nice. If one person has the question, a lot of people will. And like we said, we had multiple people write in about how do I work out what to post? What is my niche? What should I include? Yeah. So we are going to do a whole episode with a special guest on that very soon. But thank you so much for listening to episode 2 of Branding Personal. Please make sure you follow. Everything is in the show notes below. But we want to get on that billboard. Get us on a billboard. Make it. Let's make this happen as a team. Let's all collectively manifest. All 3 of us, our faces being on a billboard. Yes. Team Branding Personal. Let's go. See you in the next episode. Bye. Bye. Bye.